Today, we welcome Peter Navarro to the show, economist, author, and the president's senior advisor on trade, who's never been shy about calling things as he sees them, whether in the Oval Office, on the campaign trail, or behind bars. Yes, you heard that right. Navarro's now out with a brand new book on Amazon entitled, I Went to Prison So You Won't Have to, a blistering firsthand account that's equal parts warning, confession, and a playbook for anyone who dares to challenge the status quo. From Ballard Studios in the nation's capital, it's 13th and Park.
The hard things that are necessary, we either do it or we'll pay the price down the road.
That often is missing in politics.
We have to solve everything.
It's a nightmare.
You and I can differ, but that doesn't mean you and I cannot be friends.
I have faith in the American people.
Those are the facts.
The Illuminati, right there. Aliens could have invaded and nothing would surprise me at this point.
We went from North Korea to M&M. That's a lot, man.
What's in this tea?
Peter Navarro, great to have you on 13th and Park. I love the fact that before we started rolling here, you started talking about our editing system, difference between DaVinci and Adobe. I'm very impressed.
Well, communication is the key, sir, as you well know. I did a film the boss actually watched back in 2012, Death by China.
Yeah.
It was my one and only feature film, so I like coming in and see what kind of toys you guys have.
That 2012 documentary, of course, you brought into play another president, of course, the president on television, Martin Sheen. What was that like working with Martin Sheen?
It was a lot of fun. The way it works when you have a narrator in a film is I went up to a studio in Santa Monica, and what you do is you take the things he's got to say, and they're little takes because that's how they roll through the film. And it was very interesting that he'd start reading, and he'd give me 3 reads.
Okay.
And then he'd go, is that okay? And about the second time, I said, You know what, could you do a little of this? And he did it, right? So very humble, man. He wound up taking a lot of flack for doing it because it was a movie tough on China, and it was not politically correct at the time. The movie Death by China, you can see it, by the way, on YouTube. It's free. Just go there. But what was interesting, it was a bestseller on Netflix because it was on Netflix for 3 years, but they wound up pulling it down for political correctness, even though it was a very successful film. So it's just the whole woke legacy media in this country is broken, but of all the things they got to fix, that's not top of my list. They got to do the trade stuff and the prison stuff and everything in between.
Well, let's go back to the book that just hit the street, which is fascinating reading. I'm confessing to everyone, I'm halfway through it, but I find it riveting.
How does it end? I don't know.
I don't know. Hopefully with us in studio.
I'm here.
Isn't that the final chapter?
Yes. I guess I made it. I'm not going to show you my prison tattoo, but it's like MAGA here and Pixie on my left arm. So.
Really?
No.
See, I believe anything. So I'm going through this. First of all, I'll tell you what I really like so far. It's so bloody real to the point where I'm asking myself all the times I'm going through each of the exchanges between you and your fiancée, Bonnie, about how I would react in that situation. I find it tough to even try to imagine what it was like to be in your shoes.
Well, I went to prison so you won't have to. That's the book on Amazon. It's a tagline from my speech at the Republican National Convention on July 17th in support of the nomination of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. And what was very interesting about that speech is that was the same day.
Yeah.
I walked out of that federal prison after 4 months, got on a plane in the morning, and got to Milwaukee.
Wow.
Went on the Charlie Kirk show.
Yep.
Deep loss.
Yeah.
Was on that stage that night, brought my girl on, Pixie, at the end. She stole the show, which I always love her to do. But I view I went to prison so you won't have to as a wake-up call for this country. The message of that speech in the book is that if they can come for me, which they certainly did, if they can put Steve Bannon in prison, which they certainly did, and both of us, the only thing we're guilty of is defending the constitutional separation of powers and executive privilege. That's it, full stop. Everybody who put us in prison was a Democrat. Let's be clear. That's weaponization of government. If they can come for me and Steve, if they can try to put Donald Trump in prison, they can come for you. And they're coming for us. We're seeing a strong asymmetry now. It's a disturbing asymmetry, what the left is doing to us versus what we're not doing to them. We don't fight back. We don't call them fascists. We don't get violent. They're doing all of that. And at the same time, they're putting me in prison for taking a principled stand. I mean, what is wrong with that picture? So I went to prison so you don't have to. It's really 3 books. It's the story about my fight against the weaponization of the government.
You call it lawfare.
It's, yes, lawfare. Politics, war is politics by other means. Mm-hmm. Lawfare is politics by other means. And
sure.
Every person that I serve with at the senior level, every single one, for 4 years in the White House, has been a target of lawfare. At a minimum, they run up big legal bills because they're a target. You take Dan Scavino, one of the president's closest confidants, or Mark Meadows, who was chief of staff, right? Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay. You take Mike Flynn, same category, millions of dollars. You take Jeff Clark, John Eastman. They're trying, as we speak, to take away their bar cards so that they can't have a livelihood. Rudy Giuliani, I just got back last week from the 9/11 ceremony. My fiance, Bonnie, was at 9/11 that day. She was at 7 World Trade Center, right?
Wow, she
literally
was right
across
there.
the street, saw the bodies.
Wow.
I mean, it was heartbreaking. What they do is they do the calling of the names that day. Rudy was there in a body brace with a smashed thoracic spine, and he shows up. That's how strong he is. And I was with Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, who lost over 600 employees that day. The way the memorial's set up, it has everybody's name engraved around the wall, and 3/4 of the wall for the first building was all his people. And we walked around with him, and he put his hand on the wall and the names, and he'd say who they were and what they did and everything like that. But we're living now in a world where Rudy, they bankrupted him. They put Steve and I in prison for 4 months. 4 different courtrooms tried to put Donald Trump in prison, and another one took $500 million from him. 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, and of course, the tragic assassination of a young man, Charlie Kirk, who I knew well going back to my first days working on the campaign in 2016 for Donald Trump. So the book is much a story about that. Then there's the prison experience itself, sir. It's like, what's it like to walk into prison at 74 years old, having committed a misdemeanor?
Yes, you're among all felons,
could
right?
have easily been probation. Instead, I got like a harsh sentence. And I'm with 200 felons. No country for old men. Okay? And what was interesting about that part of the story, besides the prison story itself, is while I was in there, instead of just crying in my beer in there, I got involved as what essentially became an investigative reporter into what was a $5 billion scandal inside the Bureau of Prisons with respect to how they implemented some of their policies. And I laid that all out while I was in prison in op-eds and things like that. But actually, as the epilogue to the book, since I've been out, I managed to help get the new leadership at the Bureau of Prisons, and they implemented the 2 policies I've recommended.
Oh, good
and
for
we've
you.
effectively begun solving that problem. And nobody's ever done that in history. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
And then there's the love story about how my sweetheart Pixie and I dealt with the prison experience. And the message there is simply that they come after me, they come after Bannon. We're soldiers. It's like, we get it. Okay, right. We're in war. These people have declared war on us. But when they go after our families, they took me down at the airport Reagan Airport.
In the ramp leading into the plane, right, with you and Pixie,
yeah,
right?
they get us in the gangway there. They call it the gangway. They waited like we get in there. 3 of them come behind us. 2 of them come at us. Got their guns on. Won't let me call an attorney. Won't let me call anybody. Confiscate my phone. Perp walk her out. It's like that day was the day I said, they're going to be held accountable for this. And that son of a bitch, Walter Giardina, the FBI agent, who took me down, got fired recently for cause because, as it turns out, whistleblowers uncovered him not only as the guy who put me in leg irons,
right,
but also as one of the key FBI agents who was incredibly involved in just about every attempt by the FBI to either stop the election of Donald Trump in 2016, 2020, and 24, or once Trump was in, to get him out. That's called election interference, a crime, and insurrection, an even bigger crime.
But you were in 15-pound leg irons. I mean, this was an offense that had no precedent in history, highly political.
Yeah.
It was coming from a Democratic administration. You had a court of law that you faced in a jurisdiction which voted 95-5 for then President Biden. All these things are happening, right?
Yes.
And yet they treat you as if you're some serious criminal, when in fact, it is highly questionable whether there was any offense here looking at the Constitution itself.
It starts with George Washington as president on the floor of Congress signing the Jay Treaty, telling Congress that I have no more right to tell you to come to the White House than you have the right to tell me to come to Congress.
Yeah.
Or my aides as the doctrine of executive privilege. The full stop. And for 50 years prior to my arrest, the policy across Democrat and Republican Party lines was what's called absolute testimonial immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hobson choice I was given was simply that I could refuse the subpoena, honor my oath of office, and risk imprisonment, or I could bend the knee, dishonor my oath of office, and destroy executive privilege. For me, that was an easy choice. I took the principled choice.
That's not an easy choice to make, by the way. I mean, it's easy to say.
For me, it was.
For you, it was. For most people, they talk a big game about principles, living by principles. You had to back it up with something you knew put you in harm's way.
That's how I roll, I guess. And I think that's the wisdom or foolishness of age, I guess, because people wonder why I didn't just do what most of the other people did.
Right.
The irony is that if I had talked about whatever it was they wanted me to talk about, it would have been very favorable to the president. I mean, it was all in my book I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
But I took that principled stance. And the interesting thing is my case is still moving through the courts.
You're still on appeal.
Yes. It's at the federal appeals court level. The next step up is the Supreme Court. I expect this U.S. versus Peter K. Navarro to go to the Supreme Court because it's a landmark, what they call a landmark case of what's called first impression.
Mm-hmm.
The court has never had to deal with this issue because it was always resolved prior to an indictment.
Yeah.
Because the law was pretty clear on it. That they shouldn't have put me in prison. They shouldn't have indicted me, prosecuted me. But now that they put me in prison, it creates uncertainty for every future presidential advisor. And for you folks watching this now, the logic of executive privilege, privilege has kind of got a bad connotation these days, but the whole concept of executive privilege is, as the Supreme Court has stated it, maintaining candor and confidentiality in presidential communications, that's their words, allows for effective presidential decision-making.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can't call me up tomorrow and say, tell me all about the internal China negotiations and how you came to that. What didn't you do? And no, that just doesn't work. And the Supreme Court recognizes that. So to that point, it's usually when you get convicted and there are significant constitutional issues which would possibly lead to a dismissal or reversal of the case, they let you out on appeal.
Not in this case.
Not moi.
Right.
No. Look, I thought at least if I went into court, I'd be able to argue my case. But the judge stripped me of every single defense before it even got to a jury.
Yeah.
And the jury itself, you go through voir dire, right? And there was I think there was one Republican and 60 people sitting there. And the prosecutors, of course, got him out.
Right.
There was 3 or 4 on the 12-person jury who expressly said they hated Trump in those kind of terms. And the way juries work, I don't know if you know this, but they're drawn from the voter registration rules, right? And the D.C. electorate went for Joe Biden in 2020, 92%. So
I had 95. I was exaggerating.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, it's
Right.
damn close.
Right. Yeah.
We're in the ballpark of kangaroo courts, right? And there's even a funny story. I tell it in the book about how the jury's deadlocked.
Yeah.
Right? It's going on longer, and my lawyers are getting their hopes up. The next thing we know, we're sitting in the cafeteria, waiting, and one of my lawyers gets a call and says, the jury's outside. I said, what the hell are you talking about? It turns out that the judge allowed them to go out for a walk to get some fresh air.
Isn't that kind of...
Outside where all the protesters were. Jail Navarro, throw them in jail.
Right.
They come back in and 9 minutes later, I'm convicted. It's then we ask for a mistrial and the judge says, well, there was nothing wrong with that. No. So this is what I was up against. But there's some great stories too about first couple of days I'm there. I'm out in the yard and I get surrounded by these 4 guys. I'm thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? And one of these guys says, we like you. We trust you. I said, well, why? He says, because you didn't snitch.
There you go.
Right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's the moral equivalence between a guy not answering a subpoena to defend the Constitution and these guys who don't tell on their fellow mates?
It's rough equivalence, we'll call it, right? Yes. Roughly. Yes. But they admire the fact that you had courage. And Bonnie, you call her Bixie. She talks in the book about your fierceness. I love that word, fierceness.
Yeah.
Have you lost any of that because of the trial and tribulation you had to go through with this court case and with the imprisonment? Do you still have that same fierceness to continue to stand tall when principle sometimes withers in the face of politics?
You tell me. You seeing any?
I see
soft
not.
edge?
I see not an ebb of softness, right? Which is why I'm 4 feet away from you.
This is a family podcast, but I'm from. It's come on. It's you saw me on stage. It's I didn't break. I didn't bend. Yeah. It's we can't. Okay, that's my message to people watching this. I went to prison so you won't have to. It's a wake up call. They're coming for you. If they take power back in 26 in the House of Representatives, the subpoenas are going to fly. They're going to do all the impeachment bullshit all over again. We'll grind to a halt in terms of getting anything done. And it won't be Wall Street who suffers. It's going to be the blue-collar, Main Street people of America and flyover country. Yep. And that's my country. So you got halfway through the book. Tell me what you liked about it. Let me interview you for a minute.
Okay, good. I love the fact that there is a true love affair between you and Pixie. That shouldn't be maybe the major takeaway, but it's really heartening that 2 people thrust in a situation that none of us have ever experienced. The first reaction and the last reaction were the same.
We got this.
As she said, we got this. I teared up when I saw that. I like the fact that your reflections from your 4 months of incarceration were very, very honest and very transparent. You really kind of called it the way you were seeing it and living it. Of course, it's in real time, right?
It's a diary. It's in diary form once we get into it. So you see kind of day to day how the plot unfolds, and there was a plot.
It comes from someone that has a long relationship with the President of the United States who, is built for speed and he's going at it. He's going for it.
Built for speed. Yeah.
So let me ask you, wearing your economist hat, how are we doing right now in terms of our pursuit on trade, trying to level the playing field? Can you give us any kind of a midterm report card on how we're doing?
The president has succeeded on the trade front beyond anybody's wildest expectations. And it's a very sharp contrast to what I had to deal with on behalf of the boss in the first term.
Mm-hmm.
We had in the first term, inside the perimeter, just a whole lot of bad guys who were opposed to Trump trade and tariff policy. I remember there's a funny story about, 8 months in, and we had every cabinet member sitting around the Roosevelt room. The boss asked everybody about tariffs. The only person in that room who was supportive of his trade and tariff policy was yours truly.
There you go.
And I saw his eyebrows go up. I saw an epiphany. He understood that if he was going to get it done, he was going to have to do it himself. And that day, we started to move. We got the steel and aluminum tariffs done. We got the 301 tariffs historically on China. We moved on solar. We moved on some anti-dumping, countervailing duty cases. And outside the perimeter, we had to face the constant criticism that the tariffs were attacks on the American people, that were going to cause inflation.
Yeah.
Now, all of that was BS as well. What we would learn in that first term very clearly is that the foreigners who want to sell into our markets bear virtually the entire burden of the tariffs. And they don't fall on consumers. There's no inflation. We prove that. So this time around, they can't get away with that. But the other thing that's going on here, which is truly remarkable, is the growing support for the tariffs, because they are going to lead us to the promised land of a reduced national debt. I mean, we're going to raise something like $7 trillion if the Supreme Court doesn't derail us within the next 10 years, which is the difference between a very significant debt that we're going to have to finance at very high interest rates versus a significant reduction in the debt, much lower interest rates, and everything that follows from that, whether it be the housing market, the mortgage, consumer credit, whether it be business loans or whatever. Because of that, you're seeing Republicans on the Hill who, first time around, were not supportive, very, very supportive now. There's a few, the Rand Pauls of this world. We don't have countries retaliating against us. They're cooperating with us because they know they cheat us. So we feel very good about where we're going.
How did you get there, Peter, as an economist, right, to this point of view, which you were the lone wolf back not so long ago, right? And the president, too.
My journey started back in 2003.
Okay.
Teaching at the University of California, Irvine Business School to fully employed students at a time when I began to notice significant numbers of them were being laid off in one of the most vibrant parts of our economy.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, what's wrong with this picture? And that set me off on a journey to figure it out, and all roads led to Beijing and China's entry into the World Trade Organization 2 years earlier, in 2001. And I did a major research project, which maintains the framework today of our analysis at the White House, which is to look at the contribution of cheap wages, which was the working assumption then as to why China was succeeding, versus all the other, what I would eventually call 7 deadly sins. The government subsidies, the lax environmental conditions, the sweatshop labor, the state-owned enterprises, the counterfeiting, the piracy and intellectual property theft, currency manipulation, killing us with fentanyl, all of that.
You were like, again, the voice in the wilderness here, right? This was so far ahead of the curve, right?
2006, the book that President Trump discovered me with, Coming China Wars, he put in his top 10 China books. The reviews were scathing. And today it just reads like a government report.
I always say today's heretic is tomorrow's hero. So you were just as simply,
In my
you're
case,
you're just in your case. I mean, you saw what others weren't seeing. Now we're all seeing it. This whole idea that China is an existential threat to the future of America is no longer really being debated.
We've won that debate. There's no question
Yeah.
about that. And I flew out to New York. It was like a Gilligan's Island kind of thing where I went out there for what I thought was going to be 2 days of helping the campaign and stuff like that. And it turned into 4 months in prison at the back end. I mean, I never dreamed going into the White House that you'd risk your freedom and your, not just your freedom. I mean, it's been very costly to me, and I'm not a rich man. It's like, it's been very costly to have to bear the burdens of the legal fees and the lost economic opportunities.
No question.
You know, it's like guys like me who have the resume coming out of a White House, they go into lucrative consulting, which I would never do. I don't love that, but you get the speeches, the boards of directors, stuff like that. You go back and you're this distinguished scholar at Harvard or something. Right. It's like the stuff we do in Trump land is so far advanced ahead of these people's thinking that they got no room for me in their institutions except for the federal prison systems.
Obviously, you go into your resume, Harvard-trained economist.
Yeah.
Impressive start, right? You grew up in a single-parent household, right? Yeah. So you saw life in a different way than a lot of people do growing up. You ran for office, I think, several times in San Diego as a Democrat back when, right? So you made an evolution. Just like Ronald Reagan. I didn't leave the party left me, basically.
In San Diego, when I ran for mayor, it was very interesting. I had the support of labor.
That's interesting.
And that was like my first understanding of the importance of blue-collar jobs. And San Diego was in danger of simply becoming a service sector job. San Diego was very important in World War II.
Yeah.
Okay, they had General Dynamics there. They had a very thriving port and things like that. So we were losing all that. And labor got behind me because I was going to try to defend the jobs at the port and at GD and other places and things like that.
Was that before or after Pete Wilson served as mayor of San Diego? Do you remember?
It was after.
It was after.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny, I had Pete in my office about 2 months ago.
Did you really?
Yeah. We reminisced about San Diego and this, that, and the other thing.
One of the first film assignments I ever did was on behalf of Pete Wilson's campaign. It was supposed to be a no-shot campaign against, ultimately, Jerry Brown. He ended up, of course, winning that by winning a debate where he knew the question about a UN resolution about Namibia or something, right? But he was a right-of-center Republican, modern Republican.
Never lost an election, according to him.
I think that's true.
Yeah, he knew when to quit.
That's right. He knew when to get out. Right. You serve this president. He's fundamentally different kind of president than America has ever experienced. As I said earlier in this interview, he's built for speed. He has the courage of his convictions, and he's going for it.
But no faster than efficiency allows.
Okay, fair enough.
I have this expression called "in Trump time,"
which means
it was
what?
the title of my my first memoir from the first term. It means as fast as you can without screwing it up.
Well, Peter, I think a lot of people admire you, again, as someone who stands up for principle regardless of consequence. Again, it's so easy to talk it. Yeah. It's so difficult to live it. I think your story embodies, part of the story was really kind of uplifting for all of us as human beings. But you gave us a warning, too, that we still have out there a situation where innocent people are being brought into the judicial system and at times, beyond into incarceration. Yeah. It's not fair. It's wrong. We know it. It's politicized. And until we fix things like that, Peter, I think this country, this democracy isn't as whole and as strong as it can and must be.
I went to prison so you won't have to. I hope your viewers will go to Amazon, get this book, get it for a friend. It's a wake-up call. And I'll tell you what, if we lose the House in 26, the presidency in 28, they're coming for you.
Godspeed on everything you're doing. America is really pulling for you, especially on the trade front. Let's get it right, and let's get it done.
Okay, my friend.
Take care.
Good to see you.